Welcome back. These days, buying a car is becoming more and more expensive. And when my partner told me that she wanted to buy her dream car, I couldn't help but shut out the price. So I said, what if you bought a crashed one and I rebuilt it for you? The idea was we'd get one at a fraction of the price, but there is a lot of risk that comes with it. And there's definitely no guarantee that you're going to get it for cheaper. I got it running and driving with my friend all the way down in Melbourne and went on a road trip back to the Gold Coast. But even though the car runs and drives, it's not exactly at a point where it's ready to be inspected, at least. There's still a lot wrong with it, and some quite major stuff, including some structural damage. So today we've got a bunch of parts here. We've got a lot to install today, so I guess let's start with something easy, just get into the flow of things. Starting off, usually in this hole sits a hood actuator. What it does is it pops the back of the bonnet up in the event of a pedestrian hitting the front of your car, or vice versa. Problem is, when it goes off, it does a couple of things. One, it ruins the bonnet, and it's really hard to fix an aluminum bonnet, or hood if you're American. Second thing it does, it logs permanent crash data on your airbag module. Now, what that means is you can't plug in a normal scan tool and just press clear to get rid of the code. You actually have to order a brand new module, send the car to Mazda to get coded to the car, which is insanely expensive. We're gonna have to find a creative solution. Because at the moment, when we start the car, we've got a flashing light just here. Now that light is essentially saying that there's a fault with the hood actuator system, and there's two parts of that we have today to put on to try and get rid of the light, but I don't know if it's going to work because of that stored crash data. One of which is the hood actuators. The second thing, when I was looking at everything that was missing from this car, I noticed that for the fog light wiring, there was one plug on this side and two plugs on that side. On the back of the bumper, there's actually meant to be all of this. Now, each of these individual things are crash sensors that are related to the hood actuators. Brand new from Mazda are $175, and there's 6 of them on this wiring. That was undoing all the zip ties from when I drove this back from Melbourne, because that was the only thing holding this thing on. So on the drive over, I was missing this piece, which actually joins the bumper to the radiator support. What we've got here is a rivet. Essentially, what you do with a rivet is, here's the gun, pop it in there, and then you squeeze these two handles together. The bottom will kind of squish out like that and hold something in place. That's how it's done from the factory on these things. So let's give it a shot. Well, that sucks. Well, this is after I had to drill the rivet out. I've actually made the hole a little bit bigger than this one. I'm gonna go back down to Bunnings, grab the right size rivets, come back. Got them. Alright. So sometimes this can make me feel a bit stupid. Like, I know that rivets seem like a simple thing to most people, and you know, they are, but when you've never used them before, it's pretty easy to stuff them up. But the key is to just don't get discouraged, just keep going. I didn't learn any of this stuff. I just figure it out by trying on YouTube. Small thing I didn't check before, make sure the material actually goes through both sections. That's how you know that you've got the right size. Ta-da! Almost OEM. I mean, the stock ones are black, but hey, you're not gonna tell. To continue things on, we're going to start building up the bumper. We're gonna put the grille in, then we're gonna put together our brand new carbon Miata fog lights that are actually DRLs. We've got some wiring to do on them, but we can do that later. In go the DRLs, then all of the crash sensors that are related to the hood actuators. And if you haven't already, now's a great time to subscribe. And here it is. Finally, for the first time, it's actually all together. This is really the last exterior visual touch to it. Oh, almost forgot about the side markers. I had to buy smoked ones. In Australia, we actually don't have them as side markers. They're just actually sort of blockers that go in. So we'll be painting them with the car. That we don't have connectors for a bulb to go in there. And how good does this look? We drove this thing all the way from Melbourne without a grille in it, with no fog lights at all. This car didn't even come with a bumper, so even though it's unpainted, I'm pretty happy with it. Now we're gonna go ahead and screw in both of the hood actuators. And then also bolt in the striker plates that if the actuators do go off, that's what they hit so they don't go straight through the bonnet. Airbox out. Here is a much better look at things and a much better look at the damage underneath. Now I have noticed this here has been broken. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take this off and then I'll JB weld this back together so it holds. But yeah, look, it's pretty simple. We've got 2 ground wires just there, and then we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 12 spot welds all together. We're just going to drill straight through them and the metal underneath. I don't know how easy that's going to be. I've got to find a drill bit that fits. I've got to see if I've got the right equipment. What we're going to be using to make this detachable is a riv nut, which, just like the rivet before, it's essentially the same thing, except it puts a thread into it, meaning you can actually pop something in there. Essentially, a riv nut works the same way as a rivet, just the difference is it actually puts a thread in a hole. So whatever you use with it can be detached with a bolt. This is what we're going to use to make this removable. Problem is drilling the holes out and knowing where to drill the holes on the new piece. So let's see how we go. So first up, I used a punch to put a guide for where I'm going to be drilling in, and then started to drill, but I only wanted to try and get through the first bit of metal. This is the first time I've done any structural work, so I want to test the waters. I have gotten through just this top layer. It hasn't gone through the bottom. So if we were spot welding this, that's exactly what you'd want to see. You only want to get through the top layer so that this metal here on the bottom actually still has some material left so you can weld it back on. But for this, we're drilling straight through it. Can't really see it, but that has gone straight through. A lot more of them to go, and those are technically the pilot holes, so we do need to make them bigger. Now, I really didn't know what I was doing here. I've never drilled out spot welds before, and as you might have picked up, the pilot holes that I originally drilled were definitely not centered. Embarrassingly, that's because I used a nail punch and not one for a drill bit. That's completely my fault. Embarrassing mistake, but anyway, I'm not going to make you sit through all this. Let's drill them out and I'll see you soon. Whoop. Woohoo! Yeah, so look, realistically, because this sits underneath the battery tray and the airbox, most people that are repairing a car wouldn't even bother replacing this. And yeah, look, to be completely honest as well, like the material isn't like that horrible. You could grab this and pull it out. A brand new one was $250, so may as well do it, and you may as well do it right. I'm also gonna pull that fan control module off the back, because while we plastic weld the other piece, mounting brackets for that have also come off, so let's do those. And as you can see, just on the sides here and here, the mounting brackets that have 2 bolts that go through them have snapped off, so let's fix this. At this point, you would have seen JB weld on the channel before. I was skeptical to start using this at first because I thought you can't really join plastic together and have it be just as strong, but this has proven me wrong. I've been really impressed with this stuff, and it really does hold the plastic together well, and you can sand it back if you really care about it. I'm not going to be sanding these pieces because you can't see them anyway. Now, the holes I've just drilled have bare metal on the inside, so we're going to coat them with some primer, and then we're going to start using the riv nut tool. Just here, I'm threading on the riv nut onto the actual, I think it's called the mandrel part of the tool. And there we go, I'm squeezing that first one in. So that's what it looks like when it's in. And there we go, so you can see all the metal. If you're looking at it top down, you can see they're a little bit uneven. On this side, they do look a bit better, and it's funny though, because this is the side that I did first, but again, these are a little bit uneven. But yeah, look, all in all, pretty happy. There's a lot of metal shavings all down here, so I'm just gonna go ahead and grab a vacuum cleaner and vacuum as much of that up as possible. Took quite a long time to get to this point. Subscribe if you haven't, and we'll see you next time where we tackle more structural damage. A lot gets done.